Welcome back, Lions fans. This is Lions Basement Banter. If you don't recognize us, it's because we literally don't do the show anymore, courtesy of Zach's schedule.
I'm gonna hit you with a banana.
Just kidding. We've been busy, haven't been able to get to it, but we are back, and we are going to recap the Thursday Night Football win for the Detroit Lions over the Green Bay Packers, and as well as look ahead to America's game of the week, 425 showdown between the Lions and the Buffalo Bills next Sunday.
America's game of the week featuring America's team, the Detroit Lions.
Yep.
All right. I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors at the beginning of the show. Obviously, like I said, we've been missing some, so definitely owe it to them a little bit here. The show is brought to you by Empire Contractors out of Shelby, Michigan. Empire Contractors is a full-service roofing company that specializes in liquid-applied roof restoration. If you or someone you know needs a commercial roof, check them out at roofsbyempire.com or on Facebook. Tell them Lions Banter sent you. All right, so Thursday we had a game that was an NFC North showdown, and it was probably more detrimental if we lost than helpful if we won, realistically. I think, after now knowing what Sunday brought. But I think if we had lost that game, I think it would have been a lot worse than we would have been in a bad position, I think.
There's no room for error right now in the NFC. Essentially, It's a three-horse race for that number one seed right now between us, Philadelphia, and Minnesota. Philadelphia is a game behind us. Minnesota, game and a half behind us.
Just because we tiebreaker.
Yeah, because we owe the tiebreaker over top of them. But it is a tight race trying to win that number one seed, which I think we can talk a bit more about. But I think we need to we'll start with the Packers game and just kind of what happened in that game for us. So, it was a slow going game early, but the Lions were able to kind of a little bit of what they wanted. They had a long drive that ended in a touchdown for them. It gave them a 7-0 lead in the first quarter. We had a field goal, courtesy of a punched out ball by Carlton Davis on a Christian Watson run down the sideline.
Yeah, and that's one of those plays where every championship team needs a little luck along the way, and the fact that ball stayed right on the sidelines and didn't bounce out of bounds was a little bit of that championship caliber luck, I think. Yeah. So,
and then Green Bay ended up scoring themselves. Josh Jacobs punches one in. That's the one of 3 touchdowns that he scored on the day. Very, very good day for him, which we kind of knew was going to happen. Yep. That comes with the territory of missing 3 starting defensive linemen, and I'm not counting Hutch or anyone in that. That's been out for a significant amount of time.
That was from Thanksgiving to this game.
Yeah,
like
more
literally
counting
one game.
Levi Onwuzurike was out, Josh Paschal was out, and DJ Reader, a surprise kind of last minute out the day before the game.
And we really only got Aleem McNeil for about a quarter and a half, realistically.
Yep, and then he left. But regardless, we went into halftime with a 17-7 lead.
Mm-hmm. Feeling pretty good. Felt like we kind of controlled that first half.
We felt really good, and then the second half, Green Bay kicked it up a notch. They scored 24 points over the last 2 quarters. Ended up outscoring us. We
it was
scored
a roller
17.
Coaster. Yeah.
So we just had to hang in there, and we got defensive stops when we need them, which helped a lot. And the name of the game was aggression, shown by Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so to a fault almost.
Yeah. So we know anyone who watched that game knew he was very aggressive on 4th down. Attempted 5 4th down conversions and converted on 4 of them. The only one that failed was a 4th and inches that we got, or a 4th and 1 that we got stuffed down on a Jahmyr Gibbs toss play, which was probably just a bad play call.
Yeah, I didn't like the play call.
Yeah. I think that was the only one I egregiously had a huge grievance with, just because,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, we were way back in our own territory. I
Like
don't think we
30-yard
needed to
line-ish.
do that.
No.
But I will say, I think along with that, the question that needs to be posed from me to you right now is, do you did you agree with Dan Campbell's mindset heading in that coming out after the game, we found out from the players that Campbell had told them the week leading up to that game that if it was 4th and 3 or inside of that, they were going for it every time.
Now knowing that was the plan from the start, yes, I will say. So a couple things. I guess I'll unwrap the layers of the onion here. I guess Dan Campbell is going to do whatever the hell Dan Campbell wants to do, and he's proven that. I would say probably 3 out of those 4 fourth down conversion, or not conversions, but fourth down tries. I think I said I don't like this, or I wouldn't do this. I think I said I wouldn't do this was kind of what it is. The only one kind of the same breath as you're saying that I didn't like was the going for it on the our own 30 game on the line, and we do the pitch play out. Very rarely do we call out Ben Johnson's play calling, but that was not a good play call on that. Yeah. I will say.
I will say, and I said this multiple times during the game because you said I don't like that. I don't like going for it there. I said multiple times, shut up. I said, we know that he's going to do this. Just shut up and accept it.
Yes.
I like every time he goes for it. I don't care. I like it. And that one, like you said, I liked it. Didn't love the play call. I don't think when you're in a 4th and 1 situation, tossing it 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage is a wise decision.
Right. So I guess go back to answering your question, do I like now knowing what they were doing, what the game plan was? Do I like the fact that he did that? Yes. 2 reasons. Yes, he stayed true to himself and his culture and what he teaches. Continuing to make a Coach of the Year campaign, continuing to keep the locker room under his control because those guys believe in him. And the second reason I like it is because, you alluded to it earlier. Our defense was in shambles, honestly. Not saying that the guys we had out there weren't serviceable, because they were. But let's be honest, second half, Josh Jacobs, he only had 66 yards, but it sure felt like he had more. I mean, it felt like they were doing whatever they wanted in spots. So, yes, I like them. I like the decisions. Again, on our own 30-yard line game on the line, I don't know. Save that for when we're playing the Jaguars and we're up 50 on them or whatever. But yeah, I'm good with it. We are going to live and die with those decisions, and I'm okay with it.
So the one that a lot of people in the national media were just tearing up about was that final decision to go for it on 4th down. 4th and inches near probably, I think, around the 30-yard line in Packers territory. There's about 40 seconds left at that point. You are, at that point guaranteed a field goal attempt to take the lead, and then you're going to leave Jordan Love with about 35 seconds on the clock to be able to come down and tie. Dan Campbell caught a lot of flack, I think, for going for it there, especially just looking at the execution and the unfortunate part that happens like once every probably 10 games of an offensive lineman stepping on the quarterback's shoe.
Yeah.
What the heck? Course, it happens in that scenario with the game on the line. Jared Goff trips on the handoff because he got stepped on. Ball, David Montgomery's right in the spot he needs to be. Takes the handoff, shoots right up for the first down. My opinion on this, and I don't know if you really want to or need to add anything. It's up to you, but I, in that situation, 100% agree. We are a banged up team on defense.
Yep.
We are most likely going to allow them into field goal range at that point. Our philosophy all year has been that we allow yardage, but we keep people out of the end zone. So in a divisional game against a team that's streaky hot like the Packers are, ending the game with the ball in your hands is fine with me.
I totally 100% agree with the sentiment. I agree with your explanation of it exactly to a T. Just to, again, peel another layer off that same 4th and go onion, found out today that it was actually Jared Goff who pushed Dan Campbell to do that last go for it on 4th down. And that, I'm putting words in their mouths because obviously I'm not in the huddle. But I picture that conversation going something like your quarterback is saying, "Coach, this is what you said we were going to do. Let's do it." And he stayed true to it. And that's just again another testament to this coach and the players that he has playing for him. I'm 100% okay with the decision we made. Would I think different if we had lost? I don't know. There's always coulda, woulda, shouldas, but we can do that during the wins too. So I'm good with it.
A few things again, national media wise, that came up were the fact that the big one was you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and they're talking about Dan Campbell's fourth down situations. A lot of people saying that's the reason they lost the NFC Championship game last year. To which I have to say, no, it's not. There were three reasons we lost that game. One was an unfortunate bounce off Kendall Vildor's helmet that landed in Brandon Ayuk's hands for a touchdown, a Jahmyr Gibbs fumble that gave the ball back to the Niners, and a couple of drop passes by Josh Reynolds.
I will give you a fourth, and I will say allowing Brock Purdy to run up the middle on scrambles because that killed us.
Yeah, that's true, but I feel like those three plays really turned the tide of the game.
I do think there were a couple of decisions that were okay. There were a couple of decisions, and I'm not going to go back to that too long, but there were a couple of decisions made, and in that game, that if they were made different, could have shed a different light. But there were also, you can look at the 12 wins that we have this season and say there were other decisions that could have been made in about half of those that might have completely changed the complexion of the game as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So back to the Packers. We don't want to harp on that game anymore.
No. I'm just saying, saying, live by the sword, die by the sword.
I brought it up. I'm just saying, I didn't mean to open our old wounds.
Just got to roll with it as well. So.
Very, very stout play by the offensive line, even without Taylor Decker. Dan Skipper held up pretty well. There was only one sack allowed in the game, and it was given up to Rashawn Gary. Surprisingly enough, actually, our defensive line performed far better than the Packers did, even though we were missing a plethora of starters. I think that's the biggest nod that needs to be given in this game was the absolute game planning of Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn to bring in, I don't even know, like 4 or 5 guys off the streets this week or off practice squads and integrate them in a way where they could use them for certain situations they needed. We saw Jamal Adams come in there, blitz out of the nickel a few times. You saw some other guys on the defensive line get involved, but Zadarius Smith had a big sack.
That was the first play of the game, wasn't it?
It was on the first drive, I believe. Big play. Zadarius Smith was all over the field on Thursday. He was
shocker.
He has
against
been
the Packers.
An absolute steal at the deadline to get that man.
Yep.
Pat O'Connor, huge game for Pat O'Connor. Mm-hmm. He was a presence in the middle of that line.
Mr. Green Dot in training did well.
Yes. Jack Campbell.
Yep.
I don't even know if I want to call him in training anymore. To me, Jack Campbell has solidified himself as a starter. I think.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just saying I think Anzalone's that green dot as long as he's here.
That's what I'm saying. I think going forward, in certain situations you sub him out, but going forward, I think Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone are the two guys that you want out there at the linebacker position. Then you bring Barnes in certain situations where you need a rush or
Rodrigo, same thing.
Yeah, Rodrigo for some run stuffing type stuff, but those two guys are great, and Jack Campbell's going to be a great linebacker for years to come.
Yep.
Now, Dan Campbell had his press conference today on Monday talking about the game a little bit, and he said that he thought Terrion Arnold had his best game of his young career so far.
Yeah, I would say yes. There were. I mean, I didn't see a whole lot from him, but I didn't see a whole lot of yellow getting thrown out on the field from him.
The only one we really saw was that one in the end zone, in the back of the end zone,
Yep.
where they called the pass interference, and I know you were not very happy. You didn't think it was necessarily as egregious.
I don't think it was. But the guy was already out of bounds, I think. So the fact that we did anything was just kind of. I think in that situation, like I think you said, like just let the guy catch it then because he was out of bounds and then if he's the first person to touch it.
I will say I don't think he was out of bounds.
Okay, I thought he had gone out of bounds on the back line.
He was
okay.
holding the back line.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, then I guess it is what it is. Honestly, with that play. Yeah.
Well, and to me, it goes back to what we've been saying about him. If he gets his head around on that play, if he gets his head around, he has absolutely, optimal position to just turn his body and pick that ball off.
Yeah, the stickiness. I mean, he's in position all the time. So
he's just got to get that head around.
Yep.
Yeah. I honestly, it was a good game. Individual performances, I just think it was so spread out that I don't really need to talk about it much. Jared Goff played well. He had the one really, really bad interception thrown to Keyshawn Nixon in their own territory.
Almost like they were wearing blue jerseys, honestly, because it was right to that guy, and there was nobody around. So yeah.
He read that one completely wrong, threw a bad ball. That's it.
There are two individuals that we have to give, though.
Yeah, and I think I know the first one is going to be Tim Patrick.
Yep.
Tim Patrick hadn't scored a touchdown since 2020, I believe it was, 2021, somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm.
Came out in this game and had 2 receiving touchdowns, and they were huge.
Yeah, when he got the first one, I think we were just both kind of like, finally, because, I know I was really cheering for him to get one because it's that feel-good story, and then he ended up with 2, and they were both like, obviously we had to have them, so yeah, he was dealing out there, and he had, like Dan Campbell said, I mean, if you go back and look, like, he had some catches that weren't touchdowns. Like he said, everybody's going to see the touchdowns. A couple blocks that I noticed, but it sounds like there were more that maybe we kind of missed or didn't see on the screen or whatever. But he did everything right that game, and it's exciting that he's our ex receiver that we picked up essentially off the streets. Yeah. I mean, not really, but
he fills that Josh Reynolds role nicely.
Yep, and he's now coming into his own. Looks like at the exact time we're going to need him. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, so he had a good game. Jamison Williams ended up leading the team in receiving, 5 catches for 80 yards. So nice job by him. St. Brown, while he didn't show up a ton on the stat sheet, 5 catches, 43 yards. He had possibly one of the biggest catches of the game. Late when we're driving, it was backed up like a 2nd and 16, I believe. We had gotten a holding call against us. They throw it to the reliable 3rd down man over the middle, hit him. He gets it right to the sticks. Arguably should have been a 1st down, but they mark him inches short. But that just set us up perfectly for that field goal and that situation to go for it on 4th down.
And I don't think that there's been a lot of this. I don't think anybody, the Goff thing, big time, but I don't think there's been a lot of people questioning, paying Amon-Ra. But anybody who has a problem with the 5 catches for how many yards did you say?
43.
43. Anybody who has a problem with those needs to go back and look at the plays in which he catches some of those passes late in the game, or, on 3rd and long or 3rd and 8, he catches a 9-yard catch. The money that we're paying him is for that, and he shows up right when he's needed every time.
Okay. So you said you had another game ball to give. Who is it?
He brings the boom, baby.
So the game winner then, the field goal man who
sir.
The game-winning kick, Jake Bates, again.
Yes, sir.
Coming in the clutch.
Yep.
Your special teams, NFC Special Teams Player of the Month, by the way.
Yep, and he's like, you know what? I think I'm going to turn around and maybe do it for December, too. We'll see. So.
Yeah. Yep.
The only thing that wasn't quite as impressive is that he wasn't a 3rd string kicker that came in and doinked it to win the division. I hate the Chiefs so much.
Yeah, that game was wild. Honestly, that game's all on the Chargers, though. They had that last play that set it up.
Yep.
Guy had Patrick Mahomes dead to rights, and he just let him sidestep him. And I don't know how you lose contain like that or just lower your head and just dive at a guy. I think you have got to stay high and just get into his face, block his arm.
I'm sending you off on a Chiefs tangent, and it's so easy because this team pisses me off.
I'm not gonna harp on them. Did you have anything else on this game that you want to talk about?
Nope. Just like I said, I'm thankful for the guys that are showing up. I'm thankful for the defense. Honestly, I wouldn't even say the defense in this one. I'm thankful for Aaron Glenn. He did what we needed to, and that's good. Sounds like we might get more healthy coming up here.
Yep. Okay. So really quick, staying on games that happened this week. Within the division, of course, the Packers lost to us. They suck. 9-3, 9-4, I think now, right? Yep, they're 9-4. So they are currently stacked right at that third place spot in the division and fighting for a wild card spot. The Chicago Bears played the San Francisco 49ers and absolutely got gobsmacked by a third string running back.
But hey, they probably used all their timeouts though.
They lost 38-13. The San Francisco 49ers put up over 300 yards of offense in the first half compared to 4 yards for the Bears in the first half, which is the lowest in the NFL this year, I believe, for any team in terms of yardage, and also the highest output for any team.
And is also the jersey number that DeAndre Swift wears. Shout out to him. He's perfect where he's at.
But anyway, San Francisco wins 38-13, moves to 6-7, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Chicago Bears are essentially dead to rights in any playoff competition. They're now 4-9.
Not technically eliminated, but technically eliminated.
They are not. They're not winning any games. They fired their coach. Their interim head coach does not look promising. It's all bad in Chicago right now.
Yeah, shout out to the same old Lions fans. I'm sure you guys will figure on that being a loss, but I think we put belt to ass on that one. So hopefully that's an absolute dog walk.
Now we have the Kirk Cousins-led Atlanta Falcons absolutely shitting the bed against the Minnesota Vikings in a revenge game where he returned to returned to the Viking Stadium in Minnesota and had a chance to beat the team that let him go following that Achilles injury last
Unfortunately,
year.
He forgot that he was on the Falcons and continued to throw the ball to the Vikings.
Yeah, so they had a pretty okay first half, and it looked promising. They got to a point where they had tied it at 21-21. They went for a 2-point conversion and tied it up. And then they absolutely fell apart from that point on, ended up losing 42-21. Didn't score a single point from that mark in the third quarter where they tied it.
Yep, I think they hit that 2-point conversion, celebrated, and everybody went home.
They allowed 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns.
That was pretty ugly. It was very hard to watch. Honestly, I understand what you're saying, tying it 21 and it being an okay first half, but I think I texted you about halfway through the first quarter, and I said, this is hard to watch. Because it just was one of those games you could tell the Falcons just were not doing anything right.
It was hard to watch for both teams in the first half because it was only 14-10 in favor of the Vikings after that point, and you felt like it could have been more if they had capitalized, but they didn't. Sam Darnold did end up having a good game for them, so I am going to give him props, and Jordan Addison looked like a beast.
Yeah, he's doing the Amon-Ra stuff and finding those soft zones, and he's getting some big catches for them.
Yeah. So as it stands now, the Lions are 12-1 in the division and have the Vikings 11-2 chasing them. The Packers at 9-4 really aren't a threat to the division anymore. We've got a 2-game advantage, or we have a 2 double tiebreaker over top of them, having beaten them in both of our matchups this year. And they're 3 games behind us right now. So there's really no chance of them even getting to the division lead. It's us and the Vikings in a boat race for that.
Yep. And I mean, I pulled up on my screen here the probabilities for the number 1 seed in the division. Number 1 seed and the division, sorry. Somebody put this together. Essentially, if we go 3-4, we are 100% locked to obviously win the division and get the number 1 seed. There's other possibilities for both of those, but the magic number's 3.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's talking about it. Mike Payton released an article today where he talked about the fastest route for the Lions to lock up the 1 seed. Not that we're looking too far ahead, but
I know.
Yeah, essentially it's win and get some help. So if we win,
we haven't got that shit all year.
I know. If we beat if we beat Buffalo this coming week, and then we beat the Bears the following week, and the Philadelphia Eagles lose to the Steelers and the Commanders in back-to-back weeks,
Doable.
then we would clinch
Doable. Yep.
the number 1 seed.
Yep.
That's asking for a lot, but we'll see. I guess I saw a little bit of the Eagles playing the Panthers, and while I understand we've been talking about this for the past few weeks, we haven't gotten any help from anybody. No AFC teams are beating NFC teams. None of the lower tier NFC teams are pulling off upsets. It's just not happening.
No.
So this week though, the Eagles played the Panthers, and I figured the Panthers had a decent chance at upsetting them just because they've been giving teams fits the past few weeks. Happened again. They're down 16 to, what was it, 22, I think, was what they were down.
Yeah, I think so.
That ended up being the final score, I believe. But Bryce Young leads an absolutely beautiful drive all the way down the field, throws a dart to Xavier Leggett, who dives for the ball and watches it slip out of his hands upon hitting the ground. Incomplete pass ends the game, essentially.
Was it a foot too far out in front? Maybe.
It was
did
a catchable
Leggett just
ball,
complete
100%.
drop it? Maybe. But that just seems to be the luck of, and I'm not saying the Lions have bad luck because we're sitting at 12-1. It seems to be the luck of us getting help this year.
My coworker is a Carolina Panthers fan, and I talked to him about it today, and he said he absolutely could not believe that happened, and he said he understood that people were talking about how Xavier Leggett would kind of be a project player coming in, but he said there's absolutely no excuse for dropping a ball like that.
That's not a project player. That's an NFL athlete. Should be able to make that catch. I can tell you Penei Sewell would have made that catch. But
yep. So
that's neither here nor there. Mr. Angry Runs, shout out to him.
Yeah, there's a good one. Penei did win Angry Runs for taking a sack.
And yeah, essentially losing yards, and that was all he had. But yeah.
Moving on to this week, it's a big one again. Not as high of stakes necessarily because it's an cross-conference game. We're playing the Buffalo Bills in Detroit, which is promising. So if you were wondering why we are wearing our black jerseys this week, that is the Lions uniform combos that they will be wearing in prime time on Sunday.
So I didn't really get a real good answer. I asked on X to see if any of the Lions gurus, and I actually even tagged Lions to see if they'd chime in. We didn't wear our alts on Thanksgiving. Do we have to call those at the beginning of the year? Because that would mean that we could wear these for Week 18 against the Vikings.
I don't know how that works. I guess I wouldn't be able to answer that.
I'm wondering if that's the thought process, though. If that's a game where it comes down to the last game.
Could be.
They might throw those in there, but yeah.
This show is brought to you by Empire Contractors over here in Shelby, Michigan, on the west side of the state where we do our show, right along the lakeshore. Empire Contractors is a commercial roofing contractor who specializes in liquid applied roofing restoration. Check this out.
They can clean your existing roof, make some minor repairs, and apply a new thick coating system over your existing roof, avoiding expensive and nasty tear-off, saving you about half the cost over other systems. Empire Contractors work the entire Great Lakes region.
Give them a call to see if your roof is a candidate. They can be reached at 231-861-7221 or by going to roofsbyempire.com. They are also on Facebook.
Before we get into the Buffalo game that we've got coming up, or I guess on the front end of it, I'd like to ask you a question. You kind of alluded to we're not getting much help. You know, AFC teams are not beating NFC teams. Do you see, or who do you see as the biggest threat on the? We've clinched the playoffs. We're in the playoffs. Regardless of if we end up with a number 1 seed or a number 5 seed, which it most likely are the two most likely possibilities, I think. Who do you see as the biggest threat, whether it's NFC or all the way into the Super Bowl? Who do you see is the biggest threat to the Lions winning the Super Bowl this year?
I think it's the Eagles.
Okay.
I don't think anyone. I think Minnesota has shown that they can be fraudulent at times. And I think that we've already showed that we can beat them. I think Minnesota is dangerous. Or sorry, I think Philadelphia is dangerous because they have Saquon, who's explosive, and that not many people have been able to shut him down. And then you've got the two really good receivers on the outside, plus a pretty good tight end running routes in the middle. That's just offensively. If you look at defense, they've got just an outstanding defensive line that rotates players in constantly. They've got pretty good linebackers, and their secondary has been balling out with 2 rookies starting in it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So yeah. I think we still have a chance at the Eagles because I think when you look at them on their offense against our defense, we stack up nicely. If we're healthy, we absolutely could be the team to shut down Saquon Barkley. The problem with the Eagles is they tend to sleepwalk through the first half, and then they kind of kick it on in the second half. And Saquon gets a lot of yardage and touchdown when the game's on the line to ice it. The Lions should be able to shut him down in the first half at least, and then allow their offense to cook, because our offense doesn't matter really who we're going up defensively. We put up points.
We do, and the one thing that helps us is that we seem to start fast, it seems like, and the first half we are the ones scoring points, so as long as we can do that and keep it going. The other big thing, if we do get the Eagles, obviously these are all big ifs, but if we do get the Eagles at some point, stop those 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Do not let them get to 1 yard behind the sticks because it's not stoppable.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. So you don't see an AFC team. So this is what I was kind of.
Well, I thought you said getting to the.
No. I'm saying a Super Bowl victory, like the one team in the NFL that would be the biggest threat to us winning a Super Bowl this year. Who would it be?
I think other than them, I think the Ravens.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We know what we've been when we let quarterbacks get outside, and unless we have Aiden Hutchinson back for that week, I'm not confident that we'd be able to stop Lamar Jackson all game. And if we are able to stop him, it's going to stretch out our defense and force us to pull the big guys in the middle off sometimes, which will open it up for Derrick Henry. And I just think it's a disaster. We watched them carve us up last year.
It'd be nice to have a couple of these. It'd be nice to have like Iffy back for that game. It'd be nice to have, but I think, just to answer, I guess, my own question, I'm with you on the Eagles, and I know obviously the Bills are coming to town. That's going to be a big one, regular season. But I think for me, no game will ever be easy, including the Super Bowl on a neutral field with neutral fans, honestly. But I think the NFC is the Super Bowl winner this year, and I feel like most likely the 1 and 2 seed will be playing each other in the NFC Championship to see who goes to the Super Bowl, and it'll be the Eagles and Lions, and I think whoever wins that game will win the Super Bowl. So
okay,
yeah,
well,
on to the Bills.
We're talking. They just had an absolute shootout with the Rams. Ended up losing 44-42. Not often you see your quarterback put up 50 fantasy points and end up losing. Josh Allen with a masterclass this game. If I want to talk about what's going on this week, I think we start with what Campbell updated us with the Lions roster this week. So he talked about he felt a lot better about Decker this week. So we should hopefully be getting him back. He said he would know more on like Thursday. He'll know more on like Thursday about his status.
And these guys were given, they played 2 Thursdays in a row, so I think they were given everything Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So I don't think he's had a whole lot of contact. So, I mean, a lot of Monday was probably catching up. So.
And the good thing with Decker is he's been out 2 straight games with injury, and we've still won. He should be, healed up quite a bit now. He talked about Pascal and Levi and basically said they're still day to day, but he feels better about them. And it sounded like on the injury front, we should be getting some guys back this week. I would expect, in my opinion, obviously this isn't really drawn from much other than my opinion, but I expect we'll have Decker, one of Levi or Josh at least, and then I think DJ's back as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you're pretty spot on there, honestly.
that was it on the injury front for this game. I've got more stuff to talk about. I think once after we highlight this game a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's important that we get Decker out there so that Skipper can eat his dinner and hopefully keep it in his stomach.
One
After
of
the
the
game.
best clips in a Lions locker room celebration. Heck yeah, Skip! Keep throwing up over there or whatever.
Whatever you're doing. That was awesome. Yeah. I don't know if he was actually throwing up, but
I
it
love
sure
how
looked
the camera
like it.
panned over to him too, and actually showed him.
It just looked like an episode of The Office to me. Just the camera work. It was great. So
it was so we've got the Bills coming up. The biggest thing about the Bills, I think, is we are going to need very good play from our outside corners and from our linebackers. And what I mean there is not necessarily coverage as much as they have got to play side to side this week.
Yeah.
The one thing about the Bills is they have a speedy back in James Cook, and he likes to get to the outside more than he likes to run between the tackles. And you've also got to be ready for the draw plays where Josh Allen just takes off running. He's a force to be reckoned with when he gets running. If you let him get running, it can turn the entire tide of the game.
Yep, or even those, whether it's a play action or like you're saying, almost like a draw play where it's like an RPO and then it turns into a screen pass to the. I think we actually did it a few times this week. Monty was actually catching a couple of those, but they don't bite on that and they go for the sack, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's a 20-yard gain down the field with James Cook. So
they've obviously lost a lot of receivers coming into this year, but
Yep.
they've played pretty well without them.
Shakur is awesome.
Yeah, Keon Coleman's been out for injury for a while. I don't know if he's going to end up playing this week. No, Dalton Kincaid's been down with some injury as well, but they still have a very good tight end in
Dawson Knox.
Yes.
Yep.
Like you said, Khalil Shakur been balling out as essentially kind of the number one option, almost like an Amon-Ra type. He works a lot in the middle and does a lot of dirty work for them.
And no hate to Amon-Ra, but I actually think he's a step quicker even than Amon-Ra.
Oh yeah,
too.
he
quick.
can hit on the deep balls.
Yep.
Too. The passing game, like Josh Allen's gonna find whoever. It doesn't really matter who's out there. It doesn't scare me as much as the run game does. I just think we have to make sure we're setting our edges and not rushing past Josh Allen too much. But I still think, I know it's a daunting task, but I do think we still have a very good chance at winning this game.
So a couple things. First of all, to kind of touch on the same thing you just said, it goes back, and I'm not trying to harp again on Brock Purdy getting some runs off on us in the NFC Championship game, but this is exactly what I'm using. If we work with the offensive tackles and allow them to pull us or allow them to block us back in the pocket past the quarterback, behind the quarterback, it's going to be too late. Can't let him step up in the pocket. You've got to close that in. You can't work back to the quarterback. It's just not going to work with Josh Allen. The other thing I want to say, and I actually said it, I can't remember if it was Woodward or somebody on X actually posted a question, how will the Lions slow down or stop Josh Allen? You don't stop Josh Allen. He had 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, and probably solidified himself as the NFL MVP in a loss to the Rams. Which is outstanding and crazy, and I've got a man crush on him, so I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole. But I think the way we slow down Josh Allen is not on defense. We are going to have to score a crap ton of points in this game. I mean, I'm saying like we're going to have to do what the Rams did and score 40 plus to win this game. I'm going to call it right now. That's going to be what wins this game. It will be a shootout.
I don't know if I agree with that necessarily. I think we've said that a few times and it hasn't come true.
This is the game I was waiting for, though. I'm pretty positive of it. I'm going to stand by that one. At the end, I'll give you my prediction to score, but yeah.
So I'm thinking, just looking at the Bills a little bit, they do tend to give up rushing yards. They are like number 13, or the 13th worst team against the run. They've allowed 1,600 yards so far this season to backs and averaging about a 4.7 yard per carry to backs. So they're not great against the run, which should benefit us. We should use that early.
Yeah.
we also need to spread them out. They've got a lot of very good talent out there. They've got, Russo, who's been playing decent. Who's the
They got
Epinesa?
Yep, they got a zombie out there playing safety.
They did just get Zom. Oh, shut up. DeMar Hamlin's playing safety, and he's had a few picks this year, but I do think we can exploit him. I don't think he's great by any
In
means.
your head.
I think their secondary is not that great. They've got Teron Johnson out there. Who
They
plays
they
decent,
honestly age and injuries and whatever. They honestly let their best players walk in that secondary.
They
so.
did just get back this week, I believe, Matt Milano at linebacker. So that's a guy to watch. He's a very big force for their defense.
Their linebackers are good. They've got good linebackers, honestly.
When it comes down to it, I just think, and I keep harping on this every time, but it's going to come down to, can we establish the run first? Can we score first and force them to chase?
Stafford just threw for over 300 yards against them. So if you can spread the ball out, you can make it happen. I mean, he was hitting Tutu Atwell. He was hitting, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. I mean, they were all
we
getting.
We just had that type of game here against the Packers.
Jared Goff setting records. Go figure. So, yeah.
So, do you have anything you want to highlight in terms of matchups to watch or anything before we get into a score prediction, or do you just want to go for it?
I don't really think so. I mean, honestly, we kind of keyed in on the matchups. Our defensive line is going to have to be big and stop the run.
Linebackers too, yes.
And linebackers. Yep. And then, obviously on offense, we're just going to have to score a ton.
What's your score prediction? I'll let you go first on that one.
My score prediction is because I think it's going to take us. We're going to have to score 44 to win. I think it's going to be 46-44. I think it's going to be a very tight game, and it's going. Wait, was that the same score as the last game?
No, 44-42.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah, then pretty dang close. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I think. Don't think it's going to be. I think there is going to be points, but I don't think it's going to be that egregious. I'm thinking. Another, walk-off field goal by Jake Bates. I'm thinking 38-35 Lions.
Okay. So, yeah, you're right there within a touchdown or two.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's all I've got to talk about there. I think one thing we need to hit on is Dan Campbell had his press conferences today and gave us some updates on the IR guys.
Yes.
We've talked about, he said this after this week, they are eligible to start the window for Iffy and Rakestraw, and he said they would be evaluating them closely this week to see how they're doing, and then they could potentially make a return in the week 15 game against the Bears.
So that's good. I mean, honestly, if he's going to take some, some moving around to get back in, and obviously, I don't know if you're going to have to wrap him in bubble wrap or what the hell you're going to have to do with him, but I hope he comes back. Rakestraw, honestly, although he wasn't a huge factor for us on defense, the fact that he was able to come in and hold the fort down to, spell the guys, and then I think he also was doing some good things on special teams too.
Well, to me, if we have Rakestraw in the lineup, I don't even think we need to use Kindle Vildor as much as we have been. I think.
Sorry, Mike Payton.
I think we push. I
see your half-ass smile.
we push Meek to the outside in that situation and let him play next to TA or CD or whoever's in there. And then you put Rakestraw in the nickel, which is where they're trying to develop him at. He's been very very sticky in coverage.
So here's the thing. I know Dan Campbell doesn't like letting people rest, right? I would like to win these next 3 games so that the Minnesota game we can just say, whatever. We're locked up, number 1 seed. Who cares? I know, but what I'm saying is, if we are not going to extend Carlton Davis, I think it would be nice to get Rakestraw a full game as a starter and see what he does. In a game that doesn't necessarily matter.
I'm not gonna talk about this too much because that's far out here.
I know. I'm just saying it would be nice.
To me, I don't see. I think maybe we would rest a few key veterans, but I think a lot of guys are still gonna play.
Give them like 3 quarters, like we have been in those blowout games. Probably.
I could see sitting David, and I think Jameer would get some more carries, and Baki.
Mm-hmm.
They would do a split backfield kind of that way. Jameer not even getting that many carries.
Right.
But I just knowing Dan Campbell, he doesn't want to let his foot off the gas.
You don't want to put the speedy Craig Reynolds back there?
Craig Reynolds is a
He's
locker
lost a
room
step.
guy to me. He's just not. He's
Yeah.
not gonna give you much, but he's a very good blocker, and he's a good locker room
Just
guy.
kind of a little bit of an inside joke, I think, because what was it against maybe the Jaguars or something when it was one of those blowouts? He ended up getting a lot of fourth quarter carries, and we both kind of looked. He had like a wide open hole, and it was like, wow, he's not fast. He just wasn't. He didn't have the speed, but it's because we're used to Jameer blowing through those too. So,
I think he talked about. We talked about Anzalone a little bit too. He's out of the hard cast. He's in more of a brace type situation now, so he's getting there. Dan said that he'd probably expect him to be back either for that Minnesota game at the end of the year or early playoffs. He said.
that sucks.
That's fine. I mean, it is what it is. We knew it was going to be.
Yeah, I was
End
hoping
of
to
the
see
year,
him
but
against San Fran on Monday night.
he said kind of he was thinking the same thing with Leaf.
Okay.
Possibly getting him back in that area. Outside of the Lions talks, we've had a lot of reports coming out about Aiden Hutchinson still, and the belief is still that he could get back for the Super Bowl. There's even been reports saying that he could potentially be back for the NFC Championship game if they make it there because of how far ahead he is in his rehab. Of course, we've seen he started out running in a pool, so he's doing some resistance training there with a little bit of less body weight on that leg, but he has also now started walking as well outside of the pool. So he's getting there. Obviously, that's a far cry from being in football shape, but he's on pace to be able to play in those games. I think my last question for this show for you is, if he, what percentage of health are you comfortable bringing back Aiden Hutchinson if he's ready to go this year?
So to me, I'm not a doctor, obviously.
Or do you even bring him back?
If we are in a spot where we are in the Super Bowl or NFC Championship and the doctors say he's cleared, you put him in the damn game. There's zero chance I am sitting my number one star of this football team. There's zero chance. I don't even care if he's out of shape a little bit and he's at 80% of his, I'm even saying stamina. I'm not even saying the injury. I'm saying stamina getting back. If he's at 80%, just putting a helmet on that guy and him doing this with the streak of black is one up to our team. It's a green +1 on Madden. Just having him out there.
The question for me though is and I'm agreeing with you. I think you bring him back. My question is, if he's not going to contribute heavily, can you risk using a roster spot on a guy like that?
I believe 100%. But that's also based on other key players being healthy by then too. Anzalone, because obviously we've got extra D linemen in there because of the D linemen we've lost. We've got extra linebackers on the roster because of that. Defensive backs. It's just that's just how it goes. But if he's healthy, I am 100% behind putting him in the game. Even if, like I said, he's at 80% or better, whatever it is. I just think him with Zadarius Smith on the other side.
It's a terror.
Yes.
And with those two guys
even
in the
at
middle
80%.
too, with those two guys in the middle and the rotation of Levi.
That's why I'm saying it depends on the health.
It's been pleasantly surprising to see the progression of our pass rush because Zadarius obviously has been great. Aiden Hutchinson was elite before he went out. Liam is playing. Sorry, Liam is playing well, but Levi has been outrageously good just in spelling some of these guys. I couldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams that he would be getting the kind of pressures that he is.
I think you could. I think it was before his injury.
Well,
though.
no, that's what I'm saying is knowing the way his injury history has spanned out and how grim it was looking for his career at one point.
That's why this injury scares me with him, just because of the way he.
Where was he injured though? What was
I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I don't think it was his back, and that's
no. I know. I think I'm just saying. There were times where, there were just times like I just don't think he's a healer. He's not a fast healer. I just think it's one of those things where it's like
I do think you have to just take it with a grain of salt because the back
It's a
is a
scary thing.
very
Yeah.
difficult thing to deal with when you're depending on it to kind of contort your body a
Yep.
lot.
Yep.
And any slight move is going to re-aggravate that.
I totally agree, and especially when you got to get bend, and if you are going to be playing a little bit of edge and whatever. Do you just staying on Levi real quick? Do you think we extend him? You think he's earned that extension because he's ready now?
That's going to be a talk that has to happen with him and what he's expecting in terms of his contract because he's not going to earn starter money.
Right.
He hasn't earned starter money yet. I think I could see them doing like a 2-year, like a brief deal,
like almost a half-ass prove it
it's
deal.
It's kind of like a stint deal where you get 2 years. Let's see what you do. If you start putting up numbers where we can't deny but have to pay you starter money, then we'll reevaluate that when we get there. And if not, then you can test the market and you've put up numbers to where you can get yourself paid somewhere.
Which
else.
happens, but I think it sucks. I think that's what Glasgow did. I think that's honestly what we ended up doing with Glasgow the first go around.
Yeah, well, the thing with Glasgow is we were in a spot where we really I don't want to say we didn't need him, but
we weren't ready to win games.
And he wasn't a guy that you were going to pay a ton of money for.
Right. Yeah.
And he went to Denver, he got some experience there, and I think he just wanted to come back home.
And now he's going to be in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, we can talk about that I guess a little bit too. The Pro Bowl voting's going on right now, and the initial numbers when they came out, the Lions have
it is littered with Lions.
The Lions have probably, I would say, like 10 guys about in the top 5 in voting at their position.
Yep.
And probably another 10, 15 maybe in the top 20 for their voting. So,
I think all 5 of the offensive linemen are first. I
don't think so. Decker was not.
They went by tackles though. It was Penne and then Decker 1-2.
I don't think Decker was 2 though. I think he was back at like 6.
Oh man, I could have sworn I saw. Anyway,
no.
Zeitler was 1.
Yeah, I can tell you he wouldn't have been because there's no way with the Eagles voting. There's no way that Decker's getting more votes than Mailata and Johnson.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I could have sworn I saw that, but it's whatever.
I don't know if Decker will make it. Panay Sewell's number 1. He'll definitely make it. I would expect Amon-Ra will make it. Jameer Gibbs is getting a lot of votes. David Montgomery not as favored, which is shocking to me. Zeitler was number 1 at his position. I think Ragnow was number 2 or number 1 at his position. But people are voting for Creed Humphrey because he's young. Just the way it goes.
Right.
A lot of guys though. There were a lot of guys. Sione Vaki was number 1 at the special teamers position.
Yeah. I was trying to find it. I can't find it. But anyway,
the Lions posted it on their X account.
Okay.
But that probably is buried quite.
As I'm looking, those of you that are saying we should wear the blue pants with the black jerseys, get out of here. It's all blacks. Stop it.
Yeah, I don't really need to see the blue pants. I'm not a huge fan of the.
I like them.
I think
as long as they're blueberries.
The blue combos. I don't know. I think they need more.
The blackout's cool.
I think my opinion on their fashion.
Don't say they need to add stripes. I'm gonna punch you.
Well, no, not necessarily stripes. There needs to be some kind of white accent on those, though. I think just the solid blue is a bit much.
Man, I disagree. Okay. Anyways.
All right. That is the show. We don't have much more to talk about unless you do.
Only thing I'm going to say is make sure you guys are being good because Scary Sanders is making a list, checking it twice. And I am not talking about Santa Claus, if you know what I'm saying.
Have we given him a new name yet? Because he was...
I think Scary Sanders is still it, unless...
No, I'm just talking about like a Christmas edition.
Well, we'll have to come up with that.
Yeah. We'll have to...
Beardo. I don't know. We'll have to come up with something.
Tuddy the Elf. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, that's it. That's it for our show. Thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll be back next week with more content. It depends if Zach wants to show up to the mic or not.
That is 100% sticking, by the way. It is now Tuddy the Elf.
All right. That's it, Lions fans. Let's go get ourselves a win against one of the best teams in ball this week.
I know him.
Without further ado, we'll sign off like we always do with a hearty Go Lions.
Go Lions, baby. 13-1.